Hi, this is James, and in this video I'm going to talk a little bit about a book I just recently finished reading, and it's called Standards-Based Learning in Action, Moving from Theory to Practice. And if you followed me all this time, you know that towards the end of last school year, the final grading period, I implemented standards-based proficiency skills. And what I realized from reading the book was that I had already been implementing standards-based learning practices and philosophies in my classroom, which isn't really a surprise to me because I learned about standards-based grading 7-8 years ago before I left the classroom, but I only had bits and pieces of it. And then based on my own personal philosophies that I just came to like on my own, fit and were aligned with standards-based learning. The only thing that I don't think that I really had down were the proficiency skills and the learning targets, and this book really helped clarify. Then it actually has a lot of just different examples and templates that you can actually download. You can go to a website and you can download those, but they have examples and they talk about how some of these are set up. So if you're interested in how that works, this book is definitely helpful with that. So for example, when I say some of the practices I was already familiar with, keeping academic separate from behavioral. So early in my career, I would say like my first or second year, I would give students a grade if they turned the syllabus in. Hey, turn your syllabus in and I'll give you 100. But that wasn't a measure of their academic achievement. It was compliance. Like, hey, can you just turn this in because I need it? And so I learned early on to stop doing that and making sure that my grades are purely academic and they don't reflect any behavior, like, hey, turn in this worksheet, you know, or giving students a 0 because they didn't turn something in, which is something, if you watched any of my vlogs, I struggled with a lot this past year because when students didn't turn something in, I didn't automatically put a 0 in the grid book. I was trying to hold them accountable for turning it in because it was like, I want you to be able to show me that you understand this versus just, hey, you turn it in, I give you a 0, or you don't turn it in, I give you a 0. And well, that's not really helping either of us because I still don't know whether or not you know the material or not. And so I got better towards the end of the year with that, but it was something that I struggled with a lot at the very beginning of last school. And part of that was my fault because I was doing all these like writing assignments back to back to back, and I wasn't giving myself enough time to, grade a whole set and then get some rest and then grade another set. It was like I finished grading one set and then I would have to grade another set right away, and it just became overwhelming for me. One of the other things that was clarified for me was the concept of redos, retakes, and reassessments. For some reason, I guess I always lumped them together, maybe because other people always use them interchangeably, but the authors talk about they're not the same thing. So for example, a redo would be applied to formative assessments, and this is where, for example, a student, they didn't read the instructions carefully, and so when they did the problem, they got the question wrong. But oftentimes I would have students like that, oh no, Mr. Lice, like I understand this, I just read this wrong. Okay, go and fix it, go redo it, and then bring it back so they can get credit and they can demonstrate their understanding. A retake can be applied to a formative or summative assessment, and this is where a student, they may have messed up somewhere along one of the assessments, and so they have to either be retaught, a quick reteach, or they do some other alternative method. Then they come back and they take that exact same formative or summative assessment. And then a reassessment is where they take an alternate version. So it's an alternate version of so if they took a paper version, like paper version A, and then they take paper version B, or they take another method. So if they took a paper copy test, they might sit down with you one-on-one and you interview them. Or you might have them do a sort of project instead of a paper test. So those are the differences between a redo, retake, and a reassessment according to the authors. So I found that interesting because that's something that I'm definitely going to apply this upcoming school year in regard to my teaching practices, but then also a goal of mine is to sit down with students one-on-one and go over things with them, because that's something that I had wanted to do this past school year and I just didn't do, but I'm deliberately building that into my pacing guide this school year. Another piece is personalization, but I'm going to talk about that in another video because right now I'm reading 2 other books about personalization, and that really blended learning is one of the things that I'm really trying to work on for this upcoming school year. but as I'm learning, blended learning ties in standards-based learning and personalization. And so I think anybody who's interested in doing any type of blended learning, that they take some time to brush up on some standards-based learning and personalization. With that said, I'm going to end here. If you have any questions about this book, in terms of maybe some other things that I read, go ahead and ask me in the comments and I will do my best to answer you back. As always, thanks for watching. Bye. Well, that's it. If there was anything about this video that you liked, then make sure to hit that like button, comment down below, and or share the video. If you haven't already done so, make sure to subscribe so that way you can bond with James. And if you're interested in checking out some of my other vlogs, you can do so by clicking on any of the links right here. As always, thanks for watching.